Okay, so Grammy, here's what our topic is. Our topic is Betsy.
Betsy.
Yeah. So we want to know, we want to hear, we want to hear everything about about Betsy. We want to hear being pregnant with Betsy, going across the ocean. We want to hear about Betsy being born, Betsy in Germany.
Okay.
Just
Let her start with finding out she was pregnant.
so yeah, tell us about
You want me to hear right now?
yeah.
Okay. Back in January of 1967, I took Pop Pop to Fort Dix, New Jersey. He was shipping out over to Germany. I followed shortly thereafter in February of 67. I was seasick the whole time. I knew I was seasick from being on the ocean. I did not know I was also seasick from being pregnant with Betsy. By the time I got to Rotterdam, I weighed 89 pounds. And thank God Hank was waiting for me to take me to Mannheim, Germany. So we had a house in Germany. We had a house in Weinheim. We had a house in Weinheim, Germany. It was it over top? It was over top of a bar. There was a bar in the basement. But the nice part was there was a guest house next door. Over there you could get Wiener Schnitzel and such good German food. Well, anyway, this was a 2-bedroom house or 2-bedroom apartment. And, but we moved the house all around because it was cold. We didn't have any heat in rooms. You have a tiny little bathroom. But anyway, Betsy was born October 7th, 1967 in Heidelberg, Germany. So she's part German. She could be a dual citizen and go live over there. Betsy and I would, when she was older, we would go on walks. They had the best chocolate, and we would get chocolate ice cream. But Betsy was too little. I ate all the chocolate ice cream, but because Betsy was too little. So we finally, we would go all around, and we finally came home in October, or right before Betsy's first birthday. We came and we stayed at my mother's in Wilmington, Delaware. But we didn't stay there long. We stayed for Christmas. Pop came home from Germany, and we headed off to Fort Hood, Texas. And by now, Betsy's a year old, and Jackie's on her way. So we had a little house in Fort Hood, in Killeen, Texas. Killeen, Texas was a little house. And we would have a nice big yard and everything. And Betsy and I would go for our walks again, but they didn't have a great ice cream spot in Killeen. But Pop got a new car. He got a 1967 Camaro. It was a 4-speed or 5-speed. I drove. The truth of the matter is, I only drove in one gear. I tried to avoid ever having to go in reverse because that, to me, I don't know if I could have gotten the darn thing in reverse. I always found a parking place where I could head out again because we would go to the PX and wander around the PX and, but we also had fun going to Oktoberfest over there. We would go to Oktoberfest, and I got her some little German toys and things like that. Then I did not sail home with Betsy. We flew back to the United States, and then we bought our first house in Nashville.
Let me ask you, when you were in Germany, did you have help? Did you have friends take care of her, or were you just on your own?
Well, to be honest with you, we lived in what I would call a duplex. So the day came where Jackie was born. I had to go to the hospital to have Jackie, who was born in the hospital in Fort Hood, Texas. Our neighbors next door, who was Joanne and her husband. Joanne was the girl, the husband was in the Army. He roared in from Pennsylvania, I believe, and he had a great big GTO or some kind of a big Pontiac. Joanne took care of Betsy. and Hank Sargent took care of Betsy too. So,
Well, I mean, in Germany. In Germany, what did you do when you had her?
what did I do when I went to the? You mean?
Well, I'm just saying, like, did you have help to help you watch her in Germany?
Well,
or
I was
did
just trying-
Grammy come over there and
No,
help you? Or
My mother came over in when Betsy was 5 months old. My mother came over. My mother sailed over too. She came on the USS United States. I don't think that ship is gone anymore. I don't know what became of the United States, but anyway, she came over and spent a month with us, I believe, and we had a good. By then, we had a new apartment. We moved from Weinheim to Viernheim. Viernheim is closer to Hank's army post, which was Sullivan Barracks. That was the name of it. He still has a shirt with some Sullivan Barracks on it that he wears to exercise and things like that. But anyway, my mother wanted to tour everything. We took a tour of Heidelberg. Heidelberg is a very nice town. Weinheim isn't so fancy, but anyway, we lived over a bakery this time, up on the 3rd floor. And downstairs there was some machines where you could get donuts out, but we never did anything like that. We got our stuff at the PX all the time, is what we did. And let me think what else. But no, we had friends. And we had another friend when we got to Viernheim. Military people move all the time. This time we had Pat, and her husband was Jim. They were from Detroit, Michigan, and Pat was they had a little boy shortly thereafter. Betsy, it was Eric Dylan Lang was his name, and Pat and I came home from Germany together. We rode on the same flight up to New York. Pat had Eric and I had Betsy, and so anyway, then we got back to the States, and then when I was home but in Germany, we had friends, but we mostly had our kids ourselves all the time. Of course, it was when it was West Germany, and in West Germany, you would have to go to meetings when you first get there to tell you to be careful, because be on the lookout for a Russian car in Germany, because we were in West Germany and the Russians were in East Germany. You had to be prepared to evacuate. You were supposed to have water and various things like that for yourself in case you had to evacuate. And the funny thing, they always said that women who were 8 months pregnant would be the first ones out. I often thought it would be best in the world to be 8 months pregnant all the time in West Germany. I know you're going to delete some of this stuff, I'm telling you, but this is true. When we came home, we went to my mother, so then we spent a lot of time with Diane. We would see my friend Diane. We've been friends since we were in 1st grade. Down at the school in Assumption BVM in West Grove, PA. But Diane and I would go all around the place. I would have to drive my mother's car because Hank was overseas, and he didn't get his Camaro yet until we were in Fort Hood, and we went to Texas. He picked it up at a car dealership in Wilmington, and the car dealer man said, boy, that was the best price you could get for a car, but he had ordered it overseas and everything. And so Betsy goes off to school when she's 5 years old, and she was a very good student and everything. And first year I had to take her over Cole School. There was a busing order in Nashville, and they bused the small children from the inner city schools out to the county, and we were living out in the county, and the older kids went to downtown Nashville to some of the from 5th grade on, they went to the downtown schools, but everybody moved out to where we lived in Antioch, and it made it very difficult. So what happened when Betsy was in 2nd grade, they had split sessions. Some kids went to school from 6:30 in the morning to 11:30, and then some kids went from 11:30 to 4:30. We were in the 11:30 to 4:30 class. one day it snowed. It didn't snow very often in Nashville, but you know, Betsy wasn't in school, but it snowed a lot. And of course, I drove her to school all the time, so I had to go and get her when she was little. I did. I think we had an extra car then. Hank had the Camaro, and I had probably nothing. But anyway, that's how things worked back in those days. Eventually, when I had two more children. I mean, one more child. I had Jackie, Betsy, and then along came Hank.
So what was Betsy like as a big sister?
Well, I don't think, to be honest with you, Hanky and Betsy would gang up on Jackie more, more, more than anything. Am I telling the truth, Hank?
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
exactly what happened. Betsy and Hanky teamed up against Betsy. I mean, against Hanky.
Against Jackie.
Against Jackie. Yep. Nobody ganged up against Betsy and Hank. Betsy was quite the athlete. Betsy played softball. She was very good at softball. In high school, Betsy played volleyball and softball. But one day, Betsy was at softball, and they went to Father Ryan High School. When Betsy was a sophomore at Father Ryan High School there in Nashville, she was on the field getting ready to play ball, and she got hit in the face and had to go to the hospital over at Vanderbilt. And I met her over there because by then I was working, because I knew I have 3 kids and one day they're going to want to go to college. So I gave up substitute teaching and went to work at Vanderbilt. So anyway, let me think about what happened. But anyway, she got hit in the face. Her face was all swollen, but then she was okay after that. So the day came when it was time for Betsy to go to college. And she got this note from the University of Alabama, this letter, and she said, "Mama, I want to go to this school. I want to go to the University of Alabama." And I said, "Well, if you can get in and we have the money, you can go." So we had the money and she got in. So my daughter took off when she was young. We had a white Buick with a maroon top. We loaded that thing up with everything we had. Betsy was holding whatever she was taking to school to Tutwiler, and off we went to my first kid to college. And it was an amazing thing. We got down there and she went off to school. At first she was saying, "You know, Mama, I really don't want to go away to a school with, I will miss you." And I said, "Well, Betsy, you can always apply at Vanderbilt." And she said, "No, I don't want to go to Vanderbilt. I would see you every day." She said, "I'm ready to go to college." So off she goes to college. And I will tell you, during that first year of college, she came home once. She came home at Thanksgiving. She went to all the football games. And then she met, eventually, the love of her life, Jeff Hall. She said, "There's 2 guys that are sort of cute here. There's one that has this really neat legs." And she said she ended up marrying the one with very neat legs. Shall I say more? Because now she's Jeff's responsibility. She's not ours.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, what'd she say about him?
About Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, he was handsome. So one day, Jackie had a boyfriend too, and Jackie's boyfriend, and God, I can't remember his name, came with Betsy and Jeff went to an Adam Ant. Betsy and Jackie went to an Adam Ant conference, and Jeff and the other boyfriend were there. So we take them over to the Opryland Hotel, and we walk, because it was all Christmas decorations. It was a gorgeous place. And we took those 2 guys over there, and we had a wonderful time talking with them, walking around, looking at the Opryland Hotel while Jackie and Betsy were off at this conference or this, what do you want to
Concert.
call it? A concert. Yeah, my words. I'm old. I'm 83, and you know, I've been around for a long, long time. And today is Memorial Day. Let me say in memory of my father. He was killed a little bit over 80 years ago, but I still think about him every once in a while. Of course, every time I go to Mass, I say to pray for all my people in the family and everything. But Betsy married Jeff right
Now,
after.
when did she tell you? What did you think when she told you they were getting married?
Well, I thought that was wonderful. He's an Alabama boy, and she's an Alabama grad. They got married about 3 weeks after they graduated from college, and it was right after Christmas. And they, on their honeymoon, Alabama went to the Sugar Bowl down there in New Orleans. Well, they went down to the Sugar Bowl for their honeymoon, but in the meantime, her brother and sister, Jackie and Hanky, loaded up a car filled with Hanky, Joe McDermott, Lana, Jackie's friend, and Jack Calhoun, who was Betsy's friend from college. They all went down and stayed at the Fairmont Hotel. They had a separate room, and so they went down there. And did Alabama win, Hank?
No, they lost to Miami. It was number 1 versus number 2, but that's okay.
But
It
that's
was a good
okay.
time.
So then they came back, and they both, by now they had engineering degrees. Betsy was chemical engineering. Jeff was electrical engineering. They went to work at Milliken in LaGrange, Georgia. They stayed in LaGrange, Georgia for I don't know how many years, and then Jeff took a job up. But Betsy had 2 children in the meantime.
Now tell me about Betsy telling you that she was going to have Ashton.
You know, the truth of the matter was there was a store in Nashville called Kastner Knot, and we would go into Kastner Knot, and every once in a while we'd go buy the baby clothes, and there would be this little outfit for a baby, and it was a ridiculous little outfit. It was like a cowboy outfit or something, and I would go and buy and say, oh, I can hardly wait till we have something little that can wear this little cowboy outfit or whatever it was. And so the next time we go to that store, Betsy says, I think we're going to need to buy that cowboy outfit or whatever it was.
That was how she told you?
Yeah, she was laughing about that. And then along came Ashton, and she was the cutest little thing. She's still the cutest thing. And after that we have Fletcher, and after that we have Heather. Ashton and Fletcher went to Georgia. The opposition, but Heather, she is at Alabama in her nursing school days. And Betsy and Jeff moved from LaGrange to North Carolina, and then they moved back to Noonan, to Noonan, Georgia. And then Hank and I were living in Valdosta, and Jackie and Jamie lived next door to us, but they moved to Ringgold. So we said, we're getting old. We're going to move next to Betsy. So we moved to Noonan, Georgia, to be near Jeff and Betsy. Well, about a year and a half later, Betsy and Jeff said, Mom, we're going to Texas. Jeff got a job there for Nestle Pure Life, and they took off to Tyler, Texas. We went and helped them find a house. It was really nice, and they still live in that house in Tyler, Texas. Heather picked it out. She was the one that really liked that house. We went all around the place looking throughout Tyler for a house for them. And Jeff was out at Hawkins, which is just a little tiny town. And now Betsy and Jeff are still in Tyler, Texas. Ashton is in Tyler, Texas. Ashton's married to Taylor, and they have two little boys, Rhett, and now Bo came this year, and Heather's in nursing school at Alabama, and Fletcher is an engineer, mechanical engineer like his grandfather at Gulfstream in Savannah, Georgia.
I thought he was electrical.
No, Jeff was electrical, but
Oh, Fletcher's mechanical?
Fletcher is mechanical.
I didn't know that. So is there anything you want to say to Betsy? Like if she's going to watch this, so is there anything you want to say to her?
Betsy, I'm glad you chose Jeff. I'm glad you had Heather and Ashton and Fletcher. I have so many grandkids, and I'm getting old, so my words, and when I talk too much, which I do, I know I talk too much because Pop tells me that, and I'm not scratching my nose too much probably too, but anyway, I'm glad, and your family has increased. You have Taylor, and you have Anna. Taylor and Anna are additions, as well as Bo and Rhett. And Rhett loves his Lolly. Bo is a little bit young because he was just born a couple of months ago. He can't say Lolly yet, but I can remember when Ashton had a shower, and it was Jeff's Aunt Nancy had the shower, and so we went over to the shower, and Hanky prepared for Betsy and Jeff Alabama shirts. And Jeff says, Pop, did it?
Pappy.
Pappy. And Betsy said, Grammy.
No, I said Granny.
Grandy. And anyway, Betsy said, no, I'm going to be Lolly. And everything. And so we know she probably never wore that shirt, but Hanky was so kind and generous to get her that shirt. But you know what? Kids who are new to the world can call their grandparents whatever they want. And Betsy says right now that Rhett has trouble saying Lolly, so he calls her Nani. I like Nani, I really and truly think Nani is a really good name for a grandmother. So I hope she keeps it. And the first grandchild always picks out the name for the grandmother. And, I became Grammy, and I liked it. But I think Nani is nice. I think Lolly was nice. And anything else, Hanky, you would like me to ask? And now Betsy.
You got any funny stories about Betsy? Like just really funny?
What did Betsy do? I can remember the very first snowfall we had. The first snowfall we had in Nashville. I mean, I had them all bundled up and everything because, I'm from Pennsylvania. So when we had snowfall, it was really big. I had her and Jackie out dressed in all the winter clothes, and they had, what they had on were the heavy coats and boots, and we had about just grass covered with a little bit of snow. We didn't have much at all, but I still like that picture every time I see it. Betsy learned to drive. Betsy went to Father Ryan High School, which was in downtown Nashville. So Betsy got her driver's license at 14 years old. Her daddy got her a Volkswagen Rabbit, and he had it painted. He bought it from somebody down the street from us, and he had it painted maroon, and he put stripes on it and everything. Betsy had permission from the government. With your driver's license, when you're 14, you can drive to school and back, and to the doctor's office and back. And if you had a job, you could go to work and back. But we would go to football games and see Betsy out on the interstate when she was 15 or, and 16. Always the little rabbit would come and go. But then one day on a snowy road, I sort of ran the rabbit into somebody else's car. So the next thing Betsy had, she got our white Buick, didn't she, Hank? I think she got the white.
Can you tell me about the time? Didn't she pass you on Harding Road one time? Late at night when you were coming home or something?
Yes, no, it was on the interstate. We're going down the interstate, And the next thing you know, we see this little rabbit, little Volkswagen rabbit going passing us on the thing with Father Ryan on the back. And I thought, just whose could that be? Oh, but also, it was Betsy and her friends, but Pop got a Blazer, a big, was it a Chevy Blazer, Hank?
Yep.
It once belonged to a music star, and I forget who that was. He could probably.
No, I thought it was Dottie West.
Yeah, Dottie.
Dottie
It was
West.
Dottie West owned the Blazer. Betsy would drive that car to school one day a week, and she would love it because it had these great big wheels. It was just something that the guys that she went to school with would just love, but she would drive. But unfortunately, Hanky also drove the Blazer every once in a while somewhere, but he took down a building.
Well, that's not a story about Betsy.
That's
We
not
saved
a
that
story
for
about,
some
but
other-
I'm just telling you what happened to the Blazer. Somebody told me that somebody bought that Blazer and painted it pink. I don't.
It was David's next door neighbor, David Trainor's
David-
neighbor, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can.
Any other Betsy stories?
Let me think. Whatever. She would go to the father-daughter dances, always looking so beautiful. Betsy was a real. She was a real beautiful teenager and an adult too. She's was very pretty and still is, and everything. Let me think if I can think anything else that she did. She played softball, and she was very good. The one thing about Betsy too is she was a lefty. She was left-handed. She was my first left-handed child, and when she played softball, she was the shortstop, or up there at the Antioch ball field, and we spent all our Saturdays and days during the week playing softball with I was their coach. I've coached her in softball and everything, but she was very good. She played shortstop. She played whatever you wanted, and she could hit the ball way out there. So we had a pretty good little team. I think we were, no, I don't know how many we won, but we were in competition with these men who knew all about softball and baseball. But our team did good, and Betsy was very good. Jackie played too, but Betsy was very good at it. And let me think what else. She was very good in school. She went to Alabama and did good at Alabama, and I don't know what else I can say, Hank. What can you ask
No,
me?
we'll just end it there.
Okay.
I'm gonna put this on YouTube so the whole family can see it.
Oh my God.
That's okay. I'm gonna come
Just
back
our
and we're gonna
family
do
then.
Jackie next time.
Are you gonna edit it, or are you gonna?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not much editing needs to be doing. We're just gonna
We're
do the
doing
stories.
okay.
We're gonna call these the Grammy sessions.
The Grammy.
So we're gonna do this one, and then we're gonna do Jackie. Then we'll do me, and I know there's plenty of funny stories about Jackie and me. And then we'll go to adult life, or I would like to hear about your childhood.
when I was a kid.
Yep. So.
Yeah, I'll do that. So today was Betsy.
Yep.
Did I
So-
do awful?
Nope. You
No,
did great.
good.